Glad you could hear me though. Okay, perfect. So as I said, we are now at the point in the hearing where we have the opportunity for the panel to ask questions of the applicant. So I will open the floor to questionings. Perhaps Mr. Van Ransberg, if you have any questions, please.
I have no questions. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. And Mr. Blades.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. And this will be a question to the developer. Mr. Coppola, with that site plan that is to the west, and talking about the trees, the landscaping that's going to be proposed, is it possible to put that site plan before us again?
Through the chair to SDAB board member, yes, I will just pull it up one moment. Okay.
So that's good to see. And your description of now these would be, or this would be an additional landscaping which the developer is proposing between the townhouses and the properties to the west, the single family residential properties to the west.
Through the chair to SDB board member, yes, that is correct.
Now, what is the setback between the proposed townhouses, 3-story townhouses, to the property lines to the west? Are those the 2.4 meter setbacks? Is that correct?
Through the chair to SDB board member, the side yard setback is minimum 1.2 meters to maximum 4 meters.
Okay. And so, okay, so there's a variance. I see that there's some distances vary throughout that entire west property line.
Sorry, if I may, just through the chair to SDB board member. So the one building in the furthest southwest corner of the site plan is that setback 2 meters. The rest of all the adjacent west buildings along the site plan are setback 2.4 meters. So there's no variance. It's within that allowable prescribed range.
Okay, and so just to verify, the properties, the adjacent properties are single family residential properties to the west.
Yes.
Okay. As far as screening, now these plantings that are being proposed, you're indicating that they will grow to certain heights. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And just to verify, in my last question with respect to this particular area here, this would be a question to administration. The setbacks as required are meet land use bylaw requirements. Is that correct?
Madam Chair, through SDAB member, that is correct. The minimum requirements have been met and have been exceeded.
One last question then, and that would be to administration as well. And thank you for my question here. Transition between land uses, the densities of the townhouse or the 3-story townhouse land use and the single family to the west. Does that comply or work as far as compatibility between or within your land use bylaw? Does it meet those requirements?
Madam Chair, through SDAB board member, the transition of the lower density on the west side with the townhouses, where it transitions to the higher density of the apartments, does meet the requirements of the land use bylaw and is a nice transitioning on the property.
Okay, so that is not only the land use bylaw, but the municipal development plan that fits within the municipal development plan as well.
Through Madam Chair, through SDAB board member, that is correct. It meets the requirements of the area structure plan and the municipal development plan.
Okay, thank you to both of you, and Madam Chair, thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Coppola, you can stop sharing your screen. My questions are more specific to just the relationship. So are you familiar with any other developments that EFG Architects has been involved with in the city of Beaumont?
To the chair, I am not.
Okay. And there was some talk previously about public consultation or presentations. Are you aware or were you involved with any of these on behalf of the applicant?
To the chair, no, that prior public hearing and mandatory public engagement occurred prior to my involvement.
Thank you. And how shovel ready, if this was to proceed, are you familiar with how shovel ready this project is?
To the chair, I can answer questions related to the development permit itself as it relates to how shovel ready the project is. I believe the appetite is there to move forward, but exact timelines and dates, I can't answer that, sorry.
And again, perhaps not something that you're able to respond to, but there has been discussion about affordable housing. So are you familiar with any specific discussions regarding this property that speak to affordable housing, or in the design component, was there consideration?
To the chair, I believe that reference to affordable housing was from last year's development permit, not the one before us. So I can't speak to the market kind of orientation or the entire end user. I know that it's a development that will provide a different product type and a price point within the city, but as it relates to users, I can't comment on that.
Thank you. And my final question to you in the hot seat is similar, so you may not be able to answer it, but it is in regards to the multi-use factor. So the commercial component of this design no longer being considered, or can you remind us of any of your involvement or understanding?
To the chair, there's was never any commercial contemplated for this site.
Thank you. I think the only other question that I would have, Mr. Coppola, that I asked of everybody was your relationship with the city. So again, in moving through, the development permit aspects, whether it was just engaging and preparing or providing documentation, can you reflect on your relationship with the city?
To the chair, yeah, nothing but positive things to say about city administration and our working dynamic and relationship. Very professional, very courteous, calls back, emails, all correspondence, very professional. So nothing but positive things to say about city administration.
Thank you. Well, thank you for your presentation and your time. At this point, I think we are comfortable moving ahead with presentations from affected persons supporting the appeal. So I might perhaps ask our SDAB Secretary Designate if we had any registered.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We have no registered speakers for presentations by affected persons. Oh, sorry, supporting the appeal. Yes, we do. Sorry that you said opposing. Supporting, we have a few. Let's start with Mr. Andrew McEwen. If you'd like to turn on your screen, please.
Good evening.
Hello, sir. Thank you for taking the time, and the floor is yours.
So I don't know if there's a miscommunication. I don't believe I'm supporting the development. I'm in opposition to it. And I submitted a presentation to those regards.
Yes, Mr. McEwen, this is, you're supporting the appeal, so you are
Oh,
supporting.
pardon me. All right.
That's okay.
I don't attend these all the time. So Madam Chair, SDAB board and participants, thank you very much. I'd just like to say, Ben Andrews, that was an excellent presentation. And I also appreciate the presentation from behalf of the developer as well. I live in Beaumont Lakes, and we built and purchased here in 2007. And one of the things that we were made aware of, and we asked the area structure plan at that time, the development that was to take place in the parcel in question here was to be residential in nature and low density. And since that time, we have had 4 workovers as a resident, being advised of how that has changed 4 times since Aldrich sold the land some time ago, and these proposals have come forward. One of the things that is I wanted to ask the administration, if I may, Madam Chair, is the public consultation process. When the administration referred to the public consultation process, I'd like to, if she could please expand upon that. When did that happen specifically, and how long ago was that? Because I can tell you, as a resident here, the only thing that we were advised of is I got a letter from the SDAB advising that there's a new permit. There had been an objection, and now when I went to the site, the town's website, I saw the project now had gotten larger. So we went from low density row housing to a seniors complex to what we had last year, and now again here we are again with even a larger complex. So having said all that, I would like to know if they could update on what did that public consultation process involve, because I never, as a resident here, if it was, what did it entail to advise the folks that are directly impacted, Beauval and Lakeland area, as far as that goes?
Sure. Mr. McEwen, what I will allow you, perhaps, if there's additional thoughts to your presentation. So if you'd like to continue rather than having a back and forth dialogue. So please proceed.
All right. First, I'd like to, again, thank the Madam Chair, the board, participants. Additionally, I'd like to also thank all the mayoralty and councillor candidates that have joined the live stream for this presentation, who have expressed a general great interest in what our angst is about this development. If I can share my screen, I'd like to pull up the PowerPoint, if I may. Okay, where did it go? Sorry about that. Trying to get can you see that on your screens now?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you very much. Well, the first 2 pages are just an quick, I guess, an overview, or not an overview, or just titles and what have you. But let's like to proceed to this slide. Now, Ben's submission was excellent, and I appreciate that, as well as the developer. Our mine's not going to be as grandiose per se, other than it's just to try and really give the SDAB a feel for our objection to this development. I'd like to really reiterate, we're not, and all the neighbors I spoke to about this and all the people involved in the R2 communities, no one is opposed to a development. We're just really opposed to the density of this development. And we understand, we've heard it all as far as your presentations about how it's passed this, that, gone through all the various hoops that things go through to get to this stage. But I just like to show from our perspective, we have Beauval South and Lakeland South, and the city is proposing that this is a medium density project that has the residential density that pretty much, if not for sure, exceeds 1 and 2 to be put in this area here. Now, as far as that goes, I don't see how anybody could look at that and say that's just fine or blends right in with these two neighborhoods. Not, again, reiterating, I'm not saying that a development would not, but I'm saying that the density and the scope and size of this development, it just does not seem to meet that criteria. The slide here, and we understand the need for a higher density residential units in this area in Beaumont. It's a growing little city, and from our perspective, pardon me, is you have this small area here, and on a part of the complex of this size, in our view, would probably much be better located in other areas. Of course, I'm not speaking into the developer would have to purchase other land or move this project somewhere else, would be fine if they did that, would make more sense, or scale back to something that was a more in line with what's meeting with the existing neighborhoods. Now, when we go to this next slide here, I just want to be brief. I know Ben covered a lot of ground, and there's a lot been discussed about this already. So we have these proposals, this four-story 64-suite development that's on this part of town. Ben had gone over this, is on the outskirts. It it's on a footprint that's almost twice the size of this current one, putting the same density into the same amount of space. Number 2 is the apartment complex that just got built here, just north of where we are. And that was no surprise to the neighborhood, because they had signs up there for 5 years before that went up there, that everybody who is going, or even longer, 10 years, those signs were there that development or development similar to that was going to be in that area, and it was going to be of that size and scope from 2007 before that till now. This project here, when we moved and built and invested in Beaumont, moved to Beaumont, like I said, there's the ever-changing goalposts. We have 4 different things, and every time it comes back, it just keeps getting larger and larger and larger. Again, our objection is not to a development taking place here. It's just the size and density of this project. For a graphic representation, there's many examples that could be had in Edmonton as an example, but the residential density that's being proposed for this small space here is the same residential density. Actually, it's less in that high rise that you see right there that we're going to be putting in that space right there. So as far as the residents are concerned, this is our concern. Just look at that. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out that something's just a little out of scale here. And also from our zoning, it says 944-19 states form of development. All development, regardless of use, shall have a residential form and character, integrate with the neighborhood, and limit potential incompatibilities. Well, I'm sorry, this project at its current size is completely, in mine and my neighbor's view, incompatible with the 2 neighbors adjoining to the east and west of it. It's just way oversized for that space. It's just too big. I'm not saying it wouldn't do better or be more appropriate in these areas here, but but in this little 1 point whatever hectares land, it's just the density is just too large. And the traffic, we did ask when we had this, went through this last time, we have 32nd Avenue and 30th Avenue. We asked, because we were quite certain that no matter what our objections were, that the SDAB was just going to approve the project and away you went. And we at least pleaded that, could you at least have this as only a fire exit, fire entrance only, so that the traffic that we have, the school buses come and pick all the kids up here, back and forth every day at school. And that we have this as only a fire exit or entrance, and have all the in and out of that development take place on 30th Avenue. And we was told, nope, it's already been approved. No, we're not interested in that. Anyways, so that was a major concern. Now, moving on to, as well as Bennett had mentioned about the water table. We do have a high water table here in Beaumont Lakes, and I know they have one in Beauval. I have 2 sump pumps. I have one on either side of my house, and they're constantly going. Now, I'm not an engineer by trade, but I did spend enough time in the oil field as a young man to know that when you have ground stir like this and you put that density into that small of an area, there's a thing that's called hydrostatic pressure. What that is going to do is when you have that ground stir and they put those buildings in there, the weight of those buildings, all the groundwater that's now nicely, just kind of percolating below these residences has to go somewhere. Do I have an engineering, some report to give you? No, I don't. But that is a major concern, because I do believe that when you put the weight of that complex with that density onto that small piece of property, that's going to affect the groundwater, or potentially adversely affect the groundwater and residential basement flooding for all these adjacent properties. Potentially, okay? I'll stress that. Just to conclude really quickly, when we moved into Beaumont, I know things changed, we're a growing little city. We were told this is what we could expect from that piece of property that Aldrich sold when they had finished up with Beauval and decided to move on to other things other than developing here in Beaumont. Like I said, we've gone through, this is now the 3rd or 4th rendition or iteration of what's to go on that property. And I would just kind of feel somewhat betrayed by the city in these regards, where everything keeps changing. Again, we believe this would be a great project in its density to be located other places in the city. We believe that type of density, which is exactly what we got here, going into that small space, it's just not in the character to integrate in the neighborhoods, and it has lots of incompatibilities with the existing neighborhoods. And with that, Madam Chair, that's, I guess, the conclusion of what I had to say this evening. Thank you. I'll unshare my screen, I guess.
Thank you, Mr. McEwen. And I do note that you had one question, perhaps specific, that I might ask the development officer to respond to, if she remembers what the question was.
You see me, Madam Chair?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I just can't see myself on the screen. So, Madam Chair, through the appellant, in regards to the public consultation, I wasn't a part of the initial public consultation that dates back to 2015, where there was a public engagement for the outline plan, as well as, sorry, I was not involved with the 2017 Beauval Lake, Beaumont Lake South Area Structure Plan. But in order for those to get to move forward, they are required to have public hearings and open houses and get consultation from the public.
A follow-up question, Mr. McEwen?
Yes, well, thank you for that. And again, this is another thing that I'm just getting at. So that was in 2015. So this is iteration number 3 from 2015. And this was not brought forward to the residents in this form. and we were not consulted. So going back to 2015, it was a seniors assistant living. Then we had this, then the next iteration, which was last year, and now we have this iteration that's this year. And I think as far as a public consultation process, I think that's a real lousy process, quite frankly.
Thank you, Mr. McEwen. Unless you have another question for the development officer.
No, I do not. And thank you very much, everybody, Madam Chair, SDAB board, and participants, and our developer.
Thank you. Mr. McEwen, we may have the opportunity to have questions from the panel. So if you'd like to just show yourself still and stay involved in the conversation, I might invite my panel colleagues if they have any questions of you specifically. Mr. Van Rensburg.
No questions from me. Thank you, ma'am.
Mr. Blades.
Yes, Madam Chair. Looking at the municipal development plan, and this syncs in with the discussion, the inquiry by Mr. McEwen and for administration. Under 4.8.9, this goes into section 4 of the municipal development plan, and I know that that's probably not in everybody's textbook at the moment, but it does discuss the comments in the municipal development plan 4.8.9, developments to provide an appropriate visual transition. Now, this would be a question, I guess, to administration. Does that meet the proposal? Does it meet the intent of the municipal development plan under that section?
Madam Chair, through SDAB board member, yes, it does.
How does that, and I'm just being clear here, how does it meet that section under the municipal development plan?
Madam Chair, through SDAB board member, I would have to go back to the municipal development plan and get that information for you.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. There was discussion, the other comment that I have here, a question. For this development, the appellants have indicated water table as an issue. Was a water study or will a water study be done with respect to displacement of water table from this development? That'll be a question to administration.
Madam Chair, through SDAB board member, could you please repeat the question?
Yes, thank you. For this development, was there a water study required, or was there a water study done with respect to water table, potential water table issues? Were they addressed? Were they concluded with respect to water table for the area?
Through Madam Chair to SDAB board member, we did contact the engineering department and they are not aware that there is a high water table in this area, and geotechnical studies are done at the area structure plan stage. And we'd also like to note that as part of the development application, they need to provide stormwater management plans and be able to retain the water on site and have that approved as well.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Mr. McEwen, oh no, you're not off the hot seat, sir.
I don't consider it a hot seat, so.
Perfect. Well, we very much appreciate your presentation. And just for our own interest, again, we recognize the time and energy that goes into your presentation. Could you just tell the panel what your day profession is?
Yeah, I've been in the auction business all my adult life. I've served in that industry at an executive level. And,
Thank you.
as a young person, I spent a number of years in that.
And how long have you lived in Beaumont, sir?
We purchased our lot in 2006, built and moved in 07.
Thank you.
Actually, early 08, pardon me.
And just because there was discussions about the public hearings, and although we note that it sounds like there was one in 2015, 2017, do you recall, or was it relevant at that point for you to attend? Did you live in the same property that you're living in now? Do you recall if you attended?
Yes, I did. And I didn't bring my pail of rocks with me when I went to the city council meeting, which I probably should have. But anyways, had the same opinion then, even with when we went in the first 25th, I'm pretty sure I went to both. And the developer was presenting the seniors complex at the time. And at the time, we were somewhat concerned about the density of that, but because it was a seniors complex, we were like, okay, fine. It's not huge. It's a good size, but fine. We'll just, kind of grin and bear it, so to speak. And then we were advised that there was basically that the area structure plan had changed and the zoning had changed. And then we were advised again that it was changed again. And then we went to the meeting last year, voiced our concerns. It was approved. And then we got the letter in the mail from the SDAB that, hey, there's been the permanent expired, there's a new proposal, go and find out it's even larger, so on and so forth. But as far as the city itself saying to us or getting a hold of us and saying, hey guys, we think this is a real great idea for your neighborhood now. Let's get together and have a chat about this, so on and so forth. Didn't happen.
Thank you. I note in your presentation that you referenced sort of the fire lane, I believe, or your request previously, the difference between an entrance on 32nd and 30th Avenue. Now, obviously, that is not within our purview. Certainly the panel would not be directing or communicating with the city to make those appropriate changes. But if I may just extend the conversation, I did allow Mr. Andrews an opportunity to just, maybe think outside the box. And if this development was to proceed, what other positive suggestions might you have to alleviate some of your concerns? We've heard everything from water, we've heard safety, densification. So if this was to proceed, what might you like to see happen in a positive manner?
Well, from my perspective, I'm pretty sure it's going to proceed, whatever we say or not. But, be that what it may, again, the only thing that I could only plead would, again, to make the entrance on 32nd Avenue into the complex a fire lane, and have all in and out traffic be happening at 30th Avenue, which is a 4-lane, because they upgraded the road on 30th Avenue, and there's a set of lights there, and there's ample road space to handle the entire traffic of said development if it were to proceed. And sorry, I thought that was funny. But anyways, so if it's just going to proceed, and if there was one wish that I could have, that would be it. Also, I'd also wish that there would be a water table study done, because although administration had mentioned that, none that we're aware of, well, I don't know if they go to the insurance bureau and see how many flood claims there's been for water flood damage in those two, Beauval and Lakeland, as an example, to see that, and that might trigger a water table study to see, what could the density of this weight and size have on the hydrostatic pressure that would definitely affect the water table in the surrounding neighborhoods.
Thank you, sir. I think that I have anything other, unless you as well. One of the questions that I think is of interest to the panel is your relationship with the city. Did you take any of these questions, or in your preparation for this presentation, did you ask for information, or how was your relationship prior to today with the city?
Actually, I did not get engaged with this city at all, other than I got just engaged with my neighbors and the citizens, and a number of the candidates running for council, as far as our concerns in regards to this matter.
Thank you again.
That I'll just say about the consultation process, and my personal opinion, has been lacking.
Thank you. No, absolutely. Thank you. We are going to pivot, and I understand that we may have another brief from participants. Ms. Anderson?
Yes, I have Rob Carpenter here. He would like a chance to speak.
Thank you. Mr. Carpenter, welcome.
Bonjour, ça va?
Oui, merci.
Hope everyone's doing well and staying healthy. And I'd like to thank Madam Chair, Chair and the board members for giving me this time to speak. I am a homeowner, and the property I own is adjacent to this development. My house is the very north end on the west side of the townhouses. And my yard will be the one that people look down into when this development is completed. And I fear that, like the other speakers before me, property values will go down and there will be a lack of privacy. Now, I understand that the trees that are going to be planted to create the privacy will be great in the summertime, but Swedish aspens, they have leaves, and the leaves only stick around for the summer. Wintertime, the leaves fall off and the privacy goes with them. So I would suggest more evergreens, tall spruce, to create not only a visual barrier, but a potential sound barrier as well. Now, I do work for the city of Edmonton. I'm in the engineering group at Edmonton Transit LRT. And so one of the systems I'm involved with is the security systems. And I know that since I don't know if it's medium density or high density development that was created around Clareview LRT station, our crime rate has gone through the roof. Car thefts, assaults, sexual assaults, just more people, more problems. And all those people living as new development are going to be walking through our neighborhoods to get to the A&Ws and the free frills stores on the west side of 50th Street. So we're going to have an increase of foot traffic. Now, along with all these extra parking spots, there's going to be a vehicle in every parking spot. There's going to be more vehicle traffic. And if you notice, 32nd Avenue now is a bit of a racetrack. People zip down there at higher than posted speeds. And the street that we live on, because there's limited parking, the road narrows because there's cars parked on either side of the road. So now it becomes a single lane road and it gets congested. So I agree with Mr. McEwen's suggestion of putting the main entrance at the south end of the development. The road is designed for it, is set up for it, and the flow of traffic would not impede on our neighborhood. The what else was I going to say? Oh, the water table issue is noted. Our sump pump goes quite frequently, and I agree once again with Mr. McEwen's with I'm not an engineer, but I'm a technologist. so I have a little bit of education. And once you push all that water sideways, it's going to go to the adjacent properties. What else? Yeah, I think that's pretty much all that we wanted to talk about. Once again, I thank you for your time, and I would really appreciate it if you listened to the people that own the houses, that live there, that will be directly impacted by this development. And if anybody has a question for me, I'd be more than welcome to answer.
Thank you, Mr. Carpenter. My colleagues, any questions for Mr. Carpenter?
None for me. Thank you, Mr. Carpenter.
And none for me either. Thank you, Mr. Carpenter.
Thank you.
Okay, and you guys should have wore orange.
We all are wearing orange or recognizing it, sir. I've got orange on. We have a background orange. Thank you.
Yeah, no worries.
That's all right.
No, my wife is Métis, so I just kind of had to throw that out there.
Well, we hope that you were here at the beginning of the hearing, sir, where we acknowledged the land we were on as well as the importance of today. But
yeah, we were
Thank
logged
you.
in at that time, and we appreciate it. And thank you.
Thank you. And we appreciate you. Now, if I may, I'm going to pivot back to our SDAB Secretary Designate. And Ms. Anderson, I have Chris and Lisa Briquette listed as a written brief. I don't see them in the room, but do you have an update or is there something we need to read?
So Madam Chair, I don't have them in the room. She did submit an email to me, which was included in the agenda package, so it does not need to be read into the record. But I have, since this hearing has started, I have received an email from Wendy Cowan, who was not able to attend, but she would like to have her voice heard. So at this time, I would like to read her email into the record, if I may.
Yes, please proceed. Thank you.
Thank you. She says, I will not be able to attend, but I did want to voice my concerns. I have safety issues with the development as school buses take the road north, and the safety of the children with the increase in traffic is alarming. When we purchased our house, we were told that an adult community was going in. With the rezoning of this area, it hugely decreases the value of my home. As a council member, how would you feel with this going in behind our house? I am positive you as well would be upset. It frustrates me that the town only cares about money and it doesn't stick to its value of life being better in Beaumont. With the value of my house, when the value of my house decreases, I would want a guarantee that my taxes will decrease just as drastically. With elections coming up, I am urging you to fight for the residents of Beauval. Really look at the big picture of this development and have it built on the outskirt of town. Rethink about the future of this city and how you truly want it to be better for all residents. With strong foundational pieces in place, a wonderful development could be replaced and this current plan can be moved to a better area of town that benefits the residents and town as it grows into a thriving, well-rounded community. Thanks, Wendy Cowan. So during the course of the hearing as well, I received an email from a viewer of the live stream, and he asked me if I could just acknowledge the number of people that are viewing the live stream. He felt it was important for the board to understand the community support and interest in this hearing. And so at the time that he emailed me, we had 27 people currently viewing the live stream. So I wanted to include that as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And just, I want to be absolutely clear, somewhat in response to what I just heard from the email that you read, is that the panel before you has no direct association with the city. So we are an independent board, a panel that certainly are guided by the bylaws that are presented to us. And as I have stated before, we come with an open willingness to listen and consider in our deliberations the decisions that we render. So that's very important. I think that there was some reference specifically about the upcoming municipal elections, about perhaps if we were councillors and if this was in our backyard. We may be residents of this community, but we certainly have no ties specifically to the city. So I just wanted to reiterate that on behalf of this panel. So thank you very much. Moving forward, I think we're at the point I think that we're at the point right now that we can have presentations from affected persons opposing the appeal. So that would mean those that are in favor of the development. And Ms. Anderson, do we have anybody?
So I see that we have no cameras turning on, and I can confirm that I have no registrations to speak in opposition of the appeal. Thank you.
Thank you. At this point, we have the development officer's closing remarks.
Madam Chair, through SDAB board, I'd like to bring it to the attention that the current land use bylaw that is in effect was adopted in April of 2019. And in the integrated neighborhood district, the general intent is to provide a variety of housing options with integrated local commercial and business opportunities, primarily in greenfield areas, which includes townhouses and apartments as per the area structure plan. And the area structure plan was amended in 2020, and public consultation was a requirement of that. Prior to the application being submitted, various public engagements took place, which included the outline plan, the municipal development plan, and area structure plan, which were approved by council, and this application was submitted. Also like to clarify that the current land use bylaw that pertains to this application is 944-19. Also like to clarify that this application is for and has been approved as a multi-attached dwelling, which consists of 85 apartments and 42 townhouses. The applicant had selected commercial on the application form, and this was incorrect, and multifamily use should have been selected. It was approved on the notice of decision as a multifamily dwelling units. The previous land use bylaw and area structure plans are no longer in effect, as it does not pertain to this application. Sorry, just jumping around here. On table 2 with the land use statistics, the medium density residential area is for a total of 4.46 hectares, which this parcel is 1.34 hectares out of that. And the 4.468 hectares is for 3 parcels. So the 127 units that are being proposed falls within the 214 units that are allowed in the 4.46 hectares. The only reason that notifications were sent out to the adjacent properties was because the applicant is exceeding the maximum 4-meter side yard setback. Otherwise, notifications would not have been sent out, and the applicant would have been able to proceed with the development. This application meets the minimum setbacks of the land use bylaw and exceeds them. In addition to the existing wood fence on the west property line, the applicant has proposed to plant trees and shrubs as a buffer to screen for privacy and noise between the townhouses and existing residential properties. Water table requirements are dealt with at the building permit stage. 2 accesses for this property was a requirement of the Protective Services Department as it was reviewed. Determined through the permit approval process that this proposed development in density poses no issue with the existing infrastructure, as the road network can accommodate projected traffic, which will be directed to 50th Street and out of the neighborhood. This proposal also transitions from low to medium density by transitioning from townhouses to the apartment building. There is also a visual transition with the additional landscaping. And in the municipal development plan, visual transition can be provided through landscaping. As a development authority, one is bound to base their decisions on the current land use bylaw and statutory plans, which includes the area structure plan and municipal development plan that have been approved by council. The area structure plan is intended for a mix of townhousing and apartment houses. After careful review of these documents and plans, the development authority made the informed decision to approve the application. This concludes my closing remarks.
Thank you. And I know it's somewhat unprecedented. We certainly don't normally invite questions, but I did, for clarification, we heard in the last presentation, I think, or saw a visual that this development would be an example of something similar to what was in Edmonton at 18 stories. Please confirm for us how many stories this would be.
Madam Chair, to SDAB Board. Pardon me, I forgot to mention that the townhouses will be a maximum of 3 stories and the apartment buildings will be a maximum of 4 stories.
Thank you. Mr. Andrews, we have the appellant's closing remarks. If you'd like to turn on your camera and make those.
Thank you, Madam Chair. In conclusion, we are not opposed of the medium density zoning, which has been rezoned for this parcel, as I believe an appropriate sized townhome complex would be a great addition to Beauval and Beaumont Lakes. And it would bring that diversity that the town does need. I hope the members of the board take this appeal into very serious consideration, as there is essentially no community support, as you've seen tonight, between the YouTube link of people watching, as well as people here tonight speaking, as well as the petition. There are a number of other concerns, such as the community values we brought forward, parking, and safety for the community. But the main concern is the area structure plan, as well as the size. With Sherry saying 87 units would remain for the other 2 hectare lots, or the other 2 medium density lots, that would leave 87 units to be fit into 3 hectares. Why is 127 units being allowed into 1.39 hectares when the total should be 214? That should be split between the 3 lots, not just shoved into one. Truly, if the city would just prohibit the apartment building from being developed and add 20 more townhomes, this would be a total of 62 townhomes allowed. That would be a great addition to this area. I would be 100% in support of this, as well as all the other residents we've spoken to. As we appeal the size last year, please take all these facts presented tonight and listen to the voices of the residents you heard from Beauval and Beaumont Lakes. Stop this complex from proceeding. Stop this size. Please allow something that fits into this area, which is what we all want to see. All the residents want to see this lot developed. I'm tired of seeing a big pile of dirt, honestly. Just not something this big. The other concern that was brought forward was the trees providing privacy. Trees do help with that. However, spruce trees and pine trees take many years to grow, especially to the height they would need to give that privacy. Thank you so much for everyone taking their time out of their evening to listen to our concerns, especially on today, the 30th, which is now Truth and Reconciliation Day. I know there's been a lot of information in my package and would strongly encourage reviewing all documents I've submitted and take your time in making this decision, as it doesn't just impact me, it impacts everybody in Beauval, what you decide tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Andrews. And again, we did just want to offer you an opportunity to close the loop. If you had any questions, sir, of Mr. Coppola specifically. I know we sort of didn't call upon you when we were doing that.
No, I do not.
Thank you. Okay.
Thank you.
And Mr. Coppola, do you have any closing remarks, sir?
Yes, so thank you, Madam Chair and members of the board. I hope the responses that have been provided tonight will help to provide some further clarity to the board and address any outstanding concerns made by the appellants regarding the proposed development. Ultimately, this proposed development adheres to higher order statutory plans and is a permitted use. Again, contextually sensitive measures were put in place by ensuring that lower density townhouse transition was placed on the western portion of the subject site and that they're oriented to face north-south to mitigate further privacy concerns, as well as placing substantial landscaping to further blend the proposed development. So in addition, this proposed development will provide future residents in Beaumont with a living experience that will help to contribute to increased quality of life and a more complete community. So thank you again, everyone, for your time and for allowing me to speak.
Thank you, Mr. Coppola. Ladies and gentlemen, we are almost at the conclusion of this hearing. However, we want to reiterate that the seriousness of this and the impact that the panel does deliberate on. in so much that we would like to call yet another recess. The SDAB Secretary Designate is going to pause the live stream. She's going to send you all out into sort of the waiting room, and with your understanding, the board just wants to ensure that we've asked all of the questions, that all of the presenters have had an opportunity to be heard. So with that, we would invite you please to stay. We are nearly at the end, but we envision we'll just need a couple of moments to deliberate, and we'll bring you back into the main room.